Hey y'all, you are now tuning in to the Praying Single Mom podcast where we love the Lord, we love to pray, and we even love a good slay child, okay? But we also love to get real, raw, uncut, and candid. No topic is off limits here as we are not after religion, but we're after relationship with Christ. We are not after perfection, but we're after connection. So we'll touch on all topics from why you need to get out of that relationship that is no longer serving you to rejection, abandonment, grief, neglect, you name it. From how to be a better parent to how to better that spending habit, honey, because we know how we can get, okay? We let God use us like never before. I hope you know that you're safe here. You can cry here. You can laugh here. Whatever floats your boat and keeps you afloat, okay? I'm your host, Lakeisha Cody. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Praying Single Mom podcast. I am so excited for tonight's episode. I have my sister, Miss Neshe, on, and I'm so excited because April is Autism Acceptance Month, and there's no better way than to close this month out than no other way besides raising awareness to promote autism acceptance, celebrate neurodiversity, individual differences, and to continue to advance inclusivity as well as connectedness throughout the community. So tonight, again, we're sitting down with my sister, my friend, a powerful mogul and industry leader as she discusses her journey with autism and race tonight. So welcome on, Neshe. How are you?
I'm good, girl. I don't even know what to say after that. I'm like, oh Lord, just drop the mic. I'm done. I don't know, but no, thank you for having me on. And I know we'll go deeper into the conversation, but this topic for me is a new, fresh topic because my son just got diagnosed within the last 2 months as mild autistic. So I'm excited about this conversation, just keeping it real
Mm-hmm.
about it, especially when it correlates to race and the importance of being able to detect early signs of autism because we're gonna get all into the issues with that. But no, just thank you for having me on.
Of course, of course. I normally ask my guests, like, who are you? But however, you definitely, I do want to go over it with them just to let them know, like, who you are, right? So, Nisha is a passionate public health consultant who specializes in crafting community-based programs that foster sustainable change with the focus on serving nonprofits, social enterprises, as well as corporations. She strives to empower communities to thrive. However, her most cherished role is that of a devoted wife and mother. As a Black woman, she navigates the complexities of parenthood with grace as well as resilience, raising four beautiful children, all under the age of 5. And one of her little ones is on the autism spectrum, inspiring her daily to advocate for inclusivity as well as understanding. Balancing her professional endeavors with the joys and challenges of motherhood, she is committed to making a positive impact both in her family and the communities that she serves. So again, we are so excited to have you on, and we are so excited to have you to pour into us. I'm excited for this conversation because I know the moms are going to be empowered. She's so knowledgeable, guys. She is a rock star. She is so amazing. So let's get into it. And so, Nisha, what are some of the signs that you noticed in the beginning?
Mhm. So for me and with my story, right? And I'm a firm believer everybody have their own story and it look different for everyone. But for me, my son started off Ethan, and he's actually turning 4 tomorrow. So I'm so excited for my baby. I said it's always funny how he was born August 25th. I mean, August. That's my other son. April 25th, and April is Autism Acceptance and Awareness Month. So I know God knew what was happening when he brought me this baby and this angel. But
Yeah.
when he was younger, and as a lot of people that work in the healthcare space, at a certain age they don't diagnose kids as autism or autistic as until they're like at least 3.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, he was slow and had a little delayed in regards to his communication. Now, when he was younger, being like 1 or 2, I didn't think of it as anything. But because I also noticed or realized that we was during a pandemic. So he's a pandemic baby. So I'm
Got
like,
you.
okay, a lot of kids, even like not even on the spectrum, will have some, communication delays or just some academic disparities because of the pandemic and how the whole world had to shut down. So I didn't think of it as anything. I thought about it, I was like, okay, I just have to go harder as a mother as well as an educator to be able to make sure that my son don't fall too far behind in his milestone. So it really first started with the delayed communication, but then I started to realize that he will walk on his toes and like flap his hands.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I, thought he was just getting excited. It was, and again, I'm just thinking there's nothing to it. It's just he's young, he's one, he's two, like he's just a baby, right? He's a toddler. So it come down to the walking on his toes, flapping his hands, and then he started to, at one point in time, really like hit things and bang things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for me, that's I'm like, okay, something is going on, and I started to actually journal about it and, take notes about it. I'm a big journaler, because you just never really realize what happened during the day or what happened in our life because we're always moving so fast. But taking that time to like journal and release, I started to go back and realize the development of different signs of autism. So when he turned two, I went to this pediatrician. I said, I'm starting to realize some things about Ethan. His communication still didn't develop. He was doing more of like yelling and screaming versus actually trying to like say words. So she was like, well, we'll watch it. We'll continue to have this conversation just in case we need to do like any early intervention. So that's what we wound up doing. And it was important to me to have his pediatrician a part of the journey because outside of her being medically trained, me as a mother and a mother of four kids, I never want any of my kids to kind of go like me missing signs or me ignoring things because I'm a busy mom. I
Mm-hmm.
community work. I have a husband, so I do, make sure that me and my husband have time. But, bringing her into the journey, it allowed for us to start doing early intervention, going to have him see like a speech therapist, going to have him see an occupational therapist and a physical therapist. So once those things started to really happen for us, we started to put the pieces together and saying, yes, he level two. So it's one level 1 to 3. So he is mild in the middle. And with early intervention, he will be able to, as they say, act as a normal kid. And do the air quotations, because no kid, people, half of the time, we all have our own different personalities.
Mm-hmm.
So what normal is, I don't know. But so that's kind of how that journey started for Ethan.
Wow. And for one, I will say for you to take the opportunity to start journaling, that's different. And for the moms that are listening in, because even me, my daughter, she went through some things as far as like ADHD. I never thought to journal. I just took mental note. I talked to her pediatrician about it, but to journal, I believe that was powerful and impactful. I love how you were not afraid to ask the pediatrician questions, and as the pediatrician mentioned, early intervention is always the best because as being an ABA therapist myself, and I work in pediatrics with children from the ages of 1 all the way up to 11 years old. I've seen them transform completely. And when they say go about living that normal life, it's generalization. We want to get them out there in generalization to be able to live the best life possible. And so the hand flapping, like you said, the communication, all of those things are big ones. And also even tantruming, all of those things like that. And so the pediatrician told you, you guys would watch it. But
Mhm.
at what point did you say, you know, we got to do something about this?
Sis, early, because one thing, and I'm totally honest, transparent. You know me, I keep it real 100% of the time.
Yeah.
As a Black woman and as a Black mother to a Black boy, I'm always nervous about how society will really look at my son.
Mhm.
So I'm always cautious about how I raise my kids, how I teach them manners, how to communicate. I need for you to be able to tell me something when you need something, and I listen to them.
Yeah.
I do not agree with the parenting of you don't have a voice, mind your business. You're a child, go in the corner. No, talk to me. Because
Yeah.
if you're able to talk to me now, you'll be able to communicate with me and everyone else. So I had the same practices with Ethan because he's my second oldest. So I
Mhm.
only had one child before him. So whatever I did it with Ethan, I did it, and that's when I realized, okay, he's not grasping it. Now, what I know, every child is different, so I never went into saying like, oh, Ethan's going to be like Everett. I never would do that with any of my kids. But when I realized that his communication was not developing, I started to realize his behavior when we went out into public and he's always screaming and all that. I was like, okay, no, no, we're not doing this. So I went by my own, like I mentioned, I was journaling. Like before, I would just journal for like my own mentals. But then I started journaling just kind of daily. Okay, what is going on with Ethan? How was certain things that he ate? When he ate this, how did he react? I started to realize with Ethan, he likes to have small things in his hand all the time. He has to have something small in his hand. So when like Everett would try to get it, or my daughter Mina under him would try to get it, he would like fall out in tantrums, or he would start to try to like throw himself into the wall.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, we're not doing this no more because I refuse to allow my son to go, and I'm not going to hold him in the house. I'm not, because he's highly, highly intelligent. It's
Yeah.
just about what early interventions can we do to help with his behavior, for him to help him with the social environment, to be able to manage his behavior, his anger in public. So when I realized it started to be a big issue, I said, instead of me just being that parent and brushing it off, and just saying, oh, he's young, he's a child, it's tantrums, he gonna grow out of it. I started to look at the whole picture.
Mhm.
And I wanna highlight because of that practice. And there's an issue now where a lot of kids get diagnosed really, really late.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
get diagnosed probably like, I think it's like the statistics say about between like 8 to 11 years old, when
Mhm.
they actually start diagnosing. And that's also in the white population in regards to like our Black kids, they don't get diagnosed. And just within the last 2, 3 years, it been an increase about 4 times of Black and brown kids started to get diagnosed as
Yeah.
autistic. And we're still working on girls, on
Yeah.
like girls
That's a
getting,
big one.
diagnosed. So it takes for that mother to be the advocate because we're with them all the time. We're with them. And even his daycare, they will start to realize things, and I will communicate with them. And sometimes, it would feel embarrassing.
Yeah.
If I can be honest, it would feel embarrassing like, okay, he has a behavior issue. He may do this, he may scream, he likes to climb. So it's that sensory thing for him as well. So I'm like, always having to kind of give a forewarning of like how my son is. And I changed my perspective because I'm like, it sounds like I'm making it seem like he's just a bad kid, and he's not. He understands everything that you're saying, and we're at the point now where he's brushing his own teeth, he's feeding his own self, he's washing himself up, he knows how to like tell me what he wants. I don't treat him differently because he's on a spectrum. My child is no different than any of my other kids. Yes, socially, we may need a little intervention, but that's it. But we have to make sure that we're really paying attention to our kids, even as much as stressful, because it's stressful. It's nice where I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how can I do this? How can I manage it? Like when I'm trying to cater to his needs, but then I got a newborn baby that I'm breastfeeding, and the other two are fighting. It's hard. It's
Mhm.
exhausting, but it doesn't help when we're not really pouring into our kids. The If they need more, if they, need less, pour into all our kids to realize what is happening with them and how we can help them develop and master those milestones. So, for me with Ethan, it was more of like I'm not going to let you hit 4 and you can't do 4-year-old stuff.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
may take a little bit longer, but I'm going to work on it.
Yeah, you said something so powerful, and that's being an advocate, right? As moms, as parents in general, if we don't advocate, especially for the Black community, if we don't be an advocate for our children, who's going to do it, right? You talked about the embarrassment that you felt, and that's just being transparent with any parent. You know, you want to give that forewarning of some of the behaviors that your children or your child is dealing with. That can be frustrating dealing,
Mhm.
and even with moms who are listening in, and like you said, you had to decipher between, is this regular tantrums, or is this something else, right? And so being an advocate is using that wisdom
Mhm.
and being honest with it, with what you
Yeah.
see, because even seeing some of the children that I work with, their tantrums may mimic that of a child who's not on the spectrum. It may look the exact same, but the difference in their behaviors is that it's very consistent.
Yeah.
There's something that they want. There's something that they are desiring. It could be sensory.
Yeah.
It could be escape behaviors. You know, there's a function. And so in ABA, we always ask, what is that function? What is causing the behaviors? Are they easily redirected? For a
Mhm.
child who is not on the spectrum, I don't even like to say a normal child, but for children who are not on the spectrum, if they're having a tantrum, you can say, hey, go sit down, and they'll do it.
Yep.
Versus a child who is on the spectrum, they're in the middle of a tantrum and you're like, hey, have a seat. And they're like, not hearing anything that you're saying. And so thank God you had an older son. Like you said, you're not comparing them, but you're able to say there's something different there.
Yeah.
And I will say kudos to you for that.
Yeah.
Kudos to you for going to get that early intervention and asking the questions, journaling, all of those different type of things. Um, I can only imagine like some of the stigmas that you dealt with,
Oh,
you as well as Ethan. Can you touch on some of those stigmas?
oh yeah. So one situation that just happened, and it really just, girl, took me back to Philly for a second. I was about to have to, what Neshe do you want? But no, so his daycare, it was, I think they had 10 kids in his class to 2 teachers. So it was 10, and daycares, you had, like, by state, you have to have a certain amount of teachers for kids. So his teachers, one of them, she's amazing. I love her so, so much. And her son was actually on a spectrum. She had an autistic son, so she really catered to Ethan. And when I tell you, like, she is, will forever hold my heart. But she wound up moving into a different classroom. So now he was introduced to a different teacher, and she was good with him. She understood from his original teacher that, we're working on getting him diagnosed and all that. So kind of speed up with the daycare administration, they realized, because Ethan, with some kids that's on a spectrum, they have that sensory where they like to climb. They need the different levels and compressions, right, on their joints and everything. And Ethan is that, he loves to climb and jump. So we had that issue in the daycare where he will like climb. He will never hurt anybody else. Never. Like, honestly, he would rather be by himself. And if he is around you, he will want to like be under you, hugging you, like playing with you. Like, he give you these long hugs. Is like the best thing in the world, honestly. But one of the administrative directors had emailed me and was like, we're realizing some behavior change in Ethan, and we need to have a conference. So I'm like, okay, cool. Y'all already knew before I even wrote him that I'm going through the process. Like, with the state, it takes everything with the state takes a little bit longer than we will like, but we're going on somebody else's time, right? So we had the conversation, and they was just like, well, Ethan is an endangerment to himself and others, and he can no longer come here because we don't feel like we're a good fit for him. And the stigma of, you knew about my son before I enrolled him and everything was okay. We understand. We're gonna, we'll welcome him with open arms, everything. But now that the teacher is not in that class anymore, y'all have a new teacher, all of a sudden now he's a threat to himself and others around him. I was pissed because where I provide to my best of my ability the best quality care of childcare, health care, whatever. I go be above and beyond for my kids. So when I put them in this place, I am entrusting in you to protect my child and communicate with me anytime anything happens. So they're bringing up stuff like 2, 3 times ago, oh, he did this and he was climbing on here and he was jumping off, but you never communicated that with me. So all of a sudden now you decide that because your teachers are moving and people are leaving your establishment, he's an issue to your organization. We
Yeah.
won't we
Yeah.
will not do that. So that's that stigma around, kids that have autism, that they are a threat to society. They are a threat to those around them. And that is not the case. It's just that you're ignorant to how to work with these kids. You're ignorant and you're not compassionate enough to actually learn, which is weird to me because she also mentioned how they have some resources that come in for other kids, but you never offer that to me.
Mhm.
So that was another thing that really, really pissed me off. So it made me start to think, and not, and me, I expressed all of that in the email because I like paper trail. But I was just like, it's just funny to me how you said on this date and this date that he did something, but I have no paperwork, nothing, incident reports saying this. But then you also tell me in the same breath that y'all provide resources, which I knew I've been trying to get resources here for
Mhm.
my son to support him in his development, but that
Yeah.
was never offered to me. But the only thing you could do is say that he can no longer attend your daycare.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So in that moment, did you have to find a new center or did you have to find like therapy for him?
So he stayed home. Actually, him and my daughter under him, I was both in that daycare. So I took both of them out. I said, if he can't be here, you're not going to have my daughter here neither. So I wound up having my three youngest at home with me. Luckily, by the grace of God, about a week later, the state actually got back to us.
Oh,
But
good.
now he's in the exceptional kids program. He has his IEP to where he goes to the program Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, where they provide speech therapy for him 2 times,
Good.
and occupational therapy. So, it was only in God's work and God's time that, he I needed that time for him to go somewhere so I can get established because we had just moved out of state. This had a big move. But like I said, just that week later, after they told him they couldn't come back, we was able to hear and get from the state and get him placed into a program that's fit for his needs.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's amazing that God moved on you guys' behalf. And I'm sorry that you guys went through that. I believe that's just a testament to show like we do have to be mindful, even with the daycares or, where we place. We had one mom who removed her son from therapy, from the therapy center. She wanted him to be around children that were not on the spectrum. But unfortunately, she went through a similar situation to where they told her that he could not, attend the daycare anymore. And I think too, some of the daycare, the people who work there, they're not trained.
Yeah.
They're just not trained. And I believe you definitely want your children around those who
Oh
are
yeah.
trained,
Oh,
knowledgeable in that field for sure.
oh yeah.
So, Nisha, I do want to ask you, did you or do you ever deal with any mom guilt or feel responsible for his diagnosis in any way?
Yes. Yeah. Girl, so it's funny because I told my husband this, like I always knew that he was autistic. It was always in my head, and that's why I did all that, research and communicate and getting him seen and treated and early intervention because I always knew, even before he officially got the diagnosis. But that day that the doctor was like, "Yes, we had the diagnosis, we had the paperwork, and it had it there," I literally cried.
What were those emotions that you felt in that moment?
I felt like, what could I have done differently?
Mm.
What did I do? Was it because with Ethan, I did work graveyard in the hospital. So I used to work in the healthcare space in the ER, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., 7 nights straight. And then I would have like 7 nights off. So that was my schedule when I was pregnant with him.
Mm-hmm.
It was during the pandemic. I did have one son. I had Everett. But the world, it was just a lot of stress, right? And then I was pregnant with a world like this. So I was stressed out. I wasn't sleeping well because I was working overnight. It was just all the things. And I literally went back and I just looked at my whole pregnancy and was like, okay, what did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? Should I have quit my job? Maybe it was the job that was stressing me out. Maybe I should have just, because during that pandemic, we healthcare workers was essential. So we didn't, had to be in the house. Like we had to still go to work. So like maybe if I found a job to where I could have worked remote because my job wouldn't let me. I tried. And it was like medically, if you don't have any reason, we need you to come in because I was a supervisor.
Yeah.
So it was like, what could I have done differently?
Mm-hmm.
Was it the pandemic? Because honestly, when I think about it, a lot of my friends that had pandemic babies, their kids want to be on autism, a big amount of them. So I'm like, okay, is it because of that? Like it starts to make me think about like the correlation between that time and the things that was happening in the world and how a lot of the 2 to 4 year olds that are my friends are saying, yeah, my child was just diagnosed. My child was just diagnosed. It started to make me think, it's just that public health in me as well, where I'm like looking like, okay, was it something else to it? I never got COVID with him. I did get COVID after I had him, actually on his first birthday, but it always just made me think and like, what could I have done? And I literally cried. I cried and I had to tell myself, it's not about me. Like I knew in my head that he was autistic, but just to hear the words from somebody else, a medical, provider, physician, and to see it on the paper. And now I'm thinking about, okay, we have this diagnosis. What can I do as a mother to protect my son? What can I do as a mother to make sure that he's not isolated? He's not, oh, he can't participate because of this, or I don't feel comfortable taking him this place because of his special needs, or I don't like to say disabilities, but his disability. Um,
Yeah.
that's what everything that started to come up, and then it goes back to like, Neshe, what could you have done differently, right? Like, but then I had to remind myself, Everett is not autistic. You know, Mina, my daughter right after him, is not autistic. That girl is 33 for real, for real. Like the mouth on that one right there, the intelligence she have. So it just I had to remind myself like there's nothing that you could have done. I did everything. I made sure I ate. I limit, how much coffee I was drinking when I had to work. Like I did all the things to make sure my pregnancy was good. And it's just knowing that my baby is different socially.
Yeah. Yeah.
Socially, he's just a little different. You just got to know how to navigate around him when you are around him.
For sure. For sure. Did the journey ever get a bit easier after the diagnosis? So now that like you said, you always known, but now that you know that this is what it is, and after you've become more knowledgeable and, educating yourself on the diagnosis, do you feel like I don't know, you talked about before we got on the call that your perspective has changed.
Mhm.
In what way has your perspective changed as it relates to him?
I'm more patient, and I'm human, and I'm humble, so I still have room to grow in that. But I'm so much more patient. Like before the diagnosis, I treated him like all my other kids. I didn't single him out. Listen, Ethan, if I say do this, I need you to do this right now. But with the diagnosis, it was like, Neshe, let him have his time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you mentioned, like the tantrums are different with a child that's on the spectrum. So But I also will emphasize this. So when he have his tantrums, before I would kind of try to force him to get out of it and do what I say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now I was like, you know what? I'll give you your time. And I just talk to him just like this. And because I do that now, he comes to me, give me a hug and a kiss, and do exactly what I tell him to do.
I love that.
So like it's just my perspective is different because and now because of Ethan, honestly, I've grown so much as just a person because I do that with my other kids.
Yeah.
I do that before. Like with Mina, she's a handful. Okay, that's my baby, that's my twin, that's my girl. But now with her, I learned how to be more patient with her and be like, listen, Mina, I hear you, but baby, I need you to do this. And it's all because of Ethan. And it's all because of Ethan's story that I learned how to be a better person, a better mother, a better worker, better wife.
Yeah.
That patience. I had zero patience before, but I knew that it wouldn't help him. And it was one time, one situation that happened he had made me so mad. I had put my baby girl down, the baby, and Ethan likes to like run up and down the hallway in our house and like yell. And sometimes he don't yell like aggressive. He just loud. He just loud.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah. But he wanna run into my baby girl's room
Mm-hmm.
which is I just had a hard day. Like I had just got her down. Like I'm trying to sleep train her because she's really attached to me. So when I finally got her down, I was like, bet, cool. Like I laid in my bed, I just needed a breather. And then I just heard her crying. And the cry was it was loud. Because I'm like, okay, this cry sounds like the door is open.
Mm-hmm.
I got up and I saw him standing like in the hallway with the door open. I looked, I was so pissed. I said, Ethan, and I popped his little booty.
Mm-hmm.
The whole lip came down. I was like, baby, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. And being able to say sorry as a parent,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what nobody say. I say sorry and I apologize to my kids when I know that I'm wrong. I
Yeah.
don't care if I'm the adult. I don't care. I apologize to my kids. In that moment, I was so mad because I was just exhausted. I was
Yeah.
tired dealing with him all day, dealing with Mina, with her and everything. And then with Malia, it was just, please, just everybody just stop. And it gets like that. Like I said, I'm only human. But then I had to pull myself back and I went into the room and I just hugged on him and I just gave him a kiss. And I was just like, Ethan, I'm sorry. And he just looked at me and then he just gave me a kiss back.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he knows. He
Yeah.
knows like mommy just had a bad moment and it's not your fault.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not your fault. I just have to teach him like, don't do that. No room, no room, because I know he understands.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that, So that patience, that ability to communicate and repeatedly like communicating with him. Like I just sometimes you just have to keep saying things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was a moment for me of growth. That's a moment for me where it was just like I have to learn how to better manage my anger,
Mm-hmm.
my exhaustion, and start to pour into myself. So that that was a moment that I had with Ethan where I was like, yeah, this is
I
the
appreciate that. I appreciate your transparency. And I believe all of us as moms, we can relate to that 100%. I tell people all the time, my daughter taught me so much patience in her having ADHD. She teaches me patience every single day. And also working in the field of ABA, applied behavior analyst, working with children who are on the spectrum, it requires patience.
oh
Um,
yeah.
I bring ABA home, you know,
Mm-hmm.
all of the tactics that we learn.
Mm-hmm.
And how to shape behaviors because that's what you're doing. You're shaping behaviors. And like you said, apologizing, those apologies mean the world to them.
Oh
And not only, like you said, consistent communication with them, not you told them Monday not to go in that room, but you have to remind them if you're shaping their behaviors until they get it.
yeah.
And that requires patience. And so, kudos to you for that. How has your faith helped you on this journey?
Oh, I pray to God every day, devotions, reading the scriptures, just every morning, because so it was weird for me. One of my old church moms, back in Texas, and like I said, I just moved to a different state, but she will always say, we know we're not going to put that into yours. We're not going to say that Ethan's autistic, this, that, and the third. And I will, and she's old school, and I get it, old school Christian woman, but I had to, during this process with him, even before we got him diagnosed, I would pray to God, like, help me understand him. Because I don't know. I don't know when is nights where I just have to break down and cry because I just don't know. And I feel like I'm a bad mother. I feel defeated. I feel like I'm not, it was some nights where I'm like, I'm not a good mom for Ethan. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not the mom for Ethan. He needs somebody better than me. It's times I wrote that in my journal. It's sometimes when I do my devotions, I make notes and everything, and I put that in there. I'm not. But then always had to remind myself that God doesn't give us anything we cannot handle.
Yeah.
So it was just like, you know what? I had to change my wording and my language and saying, okay, God, you chose me to be Ethan's mother. Show me what I need to do to be that mother that I can be for him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I continuously every day I ask, depending on devotion, how can I apply this to Ethan? How
Yeah.
can I apply this to me and my baby to where I can better him and I can also grow at the same time? And it's just crazy how just God works. We just found a new church home in our new state. And again, remember I kind of mentioned how when we introduce Ethan to like new situations, I always tell the person like, hey, this is what's going on. So now I'm like, he is autistic. Bear with him, just communicate and whatever, whatever. Keep it simple, not more of a like, oh, he's a bad kid, but like, hey, I'm just letting you know. So if you have any issues, please let me know so I can support you in that.
Yeah.
But God works in mysterious ways because in the kids' ministry, in his class, he actually have an occupational therapist that's in his class. So I didn't even have to say anything. I think my husband dropped him off in the class that day. And he said he walked in and she was like kind of like grabbing his like points and like squeezing it to where now like he goes in there, see her, and ultimately go to her.
Oh,
Our
I love that.
babysitter is a mom and daughter duo, and they actually introduced us to the church, so it's crazy. But she's an occupational therapist as well, so when they're here watching our kids, for me, my husband, to have our time, she teaches him and have him communicate, and it's all within God that he's placing those people in my life that knows how to not only support my kids in their development but to love on them, because
Mm.
I don't like I can't trust, like, trusting people is hard for me just because of my own upbringing, but
Mhm.
being able to trust somebody to watch my kids is something that's so crucial, and God been placing all the people that we need in this current moment to support so I can feel comfortable, and it's only his work.
I love that. It's amazing how God will give you what you need.
Oh yeah.
Because this didn't come as a surprise to him. So he knew the right people to place on your path, when to place them on your path. Just like you said, when you removed them from the daycare, that following week he had to stay open up the doors for you guys. You go to this new church home, he got an occupational therapist there, the mom and daughter duo babysitter, they're there, they're very knowledgeable. And so I just get like it does something to me to hear it. But for those of you who are listening in, God knows what you need.
Oh
And you
yeah.
also talked about how God chose you to be Ethan's mom. God has anointed you. He's anointed each of us to be the mother of our children. There's no one else for the job but us. And so I love that so much. And we're almost about to wrap it up. But what advice would you give the mom who's listening in and she's like, unsure whether or not to take her child for evaluation? What advice would you give her?
I will say you're you're only putting your child at a disadvantage when you're not figuring out how to support him or her. It's better to get it diagnosed early, to go through whatever emotional phase that you have to, because you're going to go through it. Embrace it. If you need to cry, cry it out, because none of us are perfect, but our kids, they're so perfect. regardless. They may look a little different from somebody else. Get them diagnosed, get the resources, because if you do it early, you go through the trenches at that point, but it set them up for success later on in life.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Is there anything else that you want to share with these moms? If not, just let the people know how can they find you.
Yeah, I will say one thing, patience, and I know I highlight that a lot, but patience, especially in our Black community, we are embarrassed. We have egos, the cultural norms in regards to any type of disability for our kids. Ignore that because it's a time for a change, and that's why we continue to be behind in the development and success for our generations. Address the issue and do what you need to do to get to where you want to be for yourself and your family. Do not focus and worry about what everybody else is going to think because they're not there with you to make sure your child's successful. So I do want to say that because I had to teach myself that. But the way that you can find me, I'm on IG, Facebook, LinkedIn, LinkedIn and Facebook, just my name, Neshe Conley. But on IG underscore Neshe the Health Expert. Yeah, underscore Neshe the Health Expert. And then message me, DM me. I'm always looking at it. Not always, but I'll definitely respond to you. I love engaging and connecting with other moms, or just people that may be interested in public health and health disparities for the Black community. So those are the ways that you can connect with me.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, this has been an amazing episode. I know it's going to transform so many lives and mindsets of moms who are listening in. So, we thank you so much for sharing your story. We love you, and I am so proud of you. I am really proud of you. I am so proud of the fact that you are still going, girl.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
yeah.
you are killing it. You're not only going, listen, y'all, if y'all knew what she do like on a day-to-day basis, like we ain't got no excuses out here. Like,
Yeah.
you are a hero for your children, for your husband, for moms who are listening in, looking in. Don't stop what you are doing. You are amazing and you are needed.
Thank you, sis. Thank you. You too. Listen, thank you for bringing me on this platform and just blessing me. Okay.
Yes, but listen, thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Praying Single Mom podcast, and you all be blessed.